Ladies and gentlemen, order in the court. Today's proceedings finds the people versus James McGill.
Legal troubles got you down? Bosses refusing to pay out? Hit and run leave you stunned? Drug lords in your future? Maybe not, because he'll get your case dismissed. He'll get you the defense you deserve, but only if you say the words.
Oh no! I need legal representation! Whatever shall I do? What do I say? Oh, wait! I know!
Better call
Better
Saul.
call Saul! So, without further ado, for one last time, let's begin. Judging Saul. Gavel, gavel. Court is now in session.
You will atone.
Oh, God. Okay, Dragon, we've made it. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid. Jesus Christ. This show, I honest to God think this might be the best TV show ever.
I'm inclined to agree.
I honest to God think so. Because you and I, we have kind of like long since, like probably at about the halfway point, we kind of agreed like this is shaping up to be better than Breaking Bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, Dragon, I think that Waterworks and this episode, oh my God, like they're like Granite State and Felina on crack. It's so good. It's so good. No, I'm just saying I really like Granite State and Felina, but like, you know, everyone says like Ozymandias is kind of the peak of Breaking Bad. But yeah, Waterworks and this, Dragon, I would wager to say, like, I would probably definitively say those two episodes are probably like, you know, and I'll be honest, I've been giving the fan base, like, low key, I've kind of been ribbing the fan base just a little bit throughout the season for kind of the tendency every time a new episode comes out. That's the best episode ever. No, that's the best episode ever. Dragon, I honestly think the 1-2 punch of Waterworks and Saul Gone, like, it's hard to beat. And I will say I'm about halfway through season 1. I decided to stop until I actually got to the ending, just because I could feel like I was like, okay, I need to actually soak up all of this stuff, like when I actually know for sure, you know, exactly where it's headed. But suffice to say, man, I am stoked to go on a rewatch of this thing. It's a masterclass. Can't wait to talk about it. I'm sure you feel the same. I mean, goddamn, just the ending is perfect. The ending is perfect. They nailed it. They stuck to landing and then some. All right. What say you, Dragon?
Let's say, Tiki, should we have the 6x13, you think?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so besides that, here's what I say. By the way, what I was getting at is, like, you know, it's more meth than crack, Tiki.
Oh, right, yeah.
But yes, right. My God, you
is
know,
crack technically a form of meth?
Well, is it? Yeah, I guess it is.
No. Crack is a form of cocaine. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. All right. Jesus Christ.
It's the poor man's cocaine.
Oh, I hope my grandparents aren't listening in on this. Like, why does he know about cocaine?
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Tiki, it's really something special. I mean, again, I can easily say that Better Call Saul's, I mean, through and through, probably the best TV show ever made. And I can say that not purely in a like in kind of a personal opinion. I mean, I think objectively there's absolutely an argument to be made, because Tiki, you and I have gone over with a fine-tooth comb through this entire series, and we've only found one chink in the armor ever.
Yep.
Through 63 episodes, there has only been one time when we did something kind of random.
That boxing scene, I don't even think it was a bad scene.
No, it's fine. It's fun.
The only issue with it was it maybe went on a little too long. Yeah, like, you know, trim about 30 seconds out of it, we might be telling a difference.
No, it's not that. It's just a little random. Like, why boxing? But aside from that, it's great. It's fun. Again, it's like the one time, you know, let's just have fun with it. And I think it's earned. It's very well earned. So, especially given what happens to Howard Hamlin, give him a win. Give them a
Right, right,
win, and
right,
we did.
exactly.
So my point is, so I've adored this show ever since the beginning. Is blown away by just mundanity on an epic scale, and we've gone so far with it. This show could have easily been like kind of a supplemental show of like, oh look, half-hour lawyer comedy with Saul Goodman. Oh, isn't this kind of cute? We're cashing in on
I
the
feel like
Breaking Bad
Slip and
name.
Jimmy is like kind of like the fable of how this could have turned out.
Essentially, yes. That's the only
Oh,
thing that mars the success of Better Call Saul, but it's so far
it's
removed.
not.
It's okay.
Nah, I just that show doesn't have to exist. That was
That's what I'm
clearly just
saying.
like
Thankfully, it's
AMC's
not
like
like
marketing. That show is a piece of marketing more than anything else.
it's like thankfully we have something like on the Breaking Bad DVDs. You have like kind of like the thing that we thought the Better Call Saul show was going to be, or like little comedy shorts that are kind of like
Mhm,
little
mhm.
asides that again do absolutely fit into the fabric of things, and they are in the same tone, but they're funny. We're taking the drama out of it, just kind of focus more on kind of the irreverency of it. But
Whereas
yeah,
oddly enough, I feel like this show is even more dramatic than Breaking Bad, which is crazy.
yeah, that is absolutely that is flooring, truly. But yeah, so I was again. This was something really special because I caught Breaking Bad like, right after the ending in terms of okay, well, it end basically like in the countdown to the ending. I watched through the entire show, from the start, kind of building up to it, and then yeah, this was a big moment for me, getting to see the end of something beautiful, something like kind of a journey we had embarked on for many years. Honestly, since the like a year after we started to know each other. Frankly,
Mhm,
it's like
mhm.
it's the year after. And yeah, this was something. I mean, think about it. Tiki, in the same year, you get two of the best things that ever happened to television ever. You get Better Call Saul and you get Daredevil. Same year,
Yep.
2015, very strong year for television, my friend. But yeah, it's sad to see it go, but it ended.
2015 was just a really good year all around. We got like as far as movies go, we had stuff like Fury Road, Inside Out, Steve Jobs.
Of course, of course. Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, this again. We kind of gave within its own show. We kind of gave Better Call Saul its own kind of El Camino movie because the last episode really did feel kind of like there was a cinematic kind of heft to it. I'm not saying it was a fully like I think Bagman is the most cinematic episode they ever did in terms of this is like a movie that we've done in an hour. Where this
I
does,
feel like this has the most cinematic writing behind
yeah,
it, if that makes sense. Like
no,
the
no,
most cinematic structure, especially because of the time machine motif.
so that's what I'm saying. We do mirror a lot of El Camino in all the right ways here
Mhm.
for our last episode. So in a way, again, we've learned from the previous kind of send offs to our character arcs that we've had with both Walt and Jesse individually. We have kind of a kind of a proper ending of what we're saying about this character, and then we have kind of like the way in which we tell that story with El Camino. So we've kind of fused those approaches together and kind of altered it to be what Saul Goodman needs, what his story would be, and they kind of ultimately we have kind of this trio of stories that all branched out from the beginnings of Breaking Bad, and they've gone to really fascinating places. Can you think about how rare and special that is that doesn't crash and burn? Like essentially like two spin-offs, and they've gone really well and have not really like kind of compromised the whole.
I
And
gotta tell you, Dragon, it like they ended this show so perfectly that I'm almost inclined to just say, like, all right, like no more.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the only thing really we would do is something supplemental with Gus Fring. Like again,
Right,
bare
right.
minimum, just a docu series, like an in-universe docu series on Gus Fring. That's all we
Okay,
really
what
need.
I'm saying is that I don't think like I agree, like maybe something supplemental, like for like for a DVD or something like that.
Yeah,
Sure, a documentary or something. I'm saying I do not want another scripted seasons long drama because I feel like the two halves of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are just so perfect. Like I don't like this might be the last time I get to use this quote, Dragon. I literally just got goosebumps because I'm about to say it. I don't want to muddy the waters.
yeah. But
I
that's the crazy thing about it, Tiki, is just the fact that as much as I agree with you and that it's like leaving on a high note. And
We
again,
better
that's why
get to
they're
the actual episode soon, by the way. Just
all right, all right,
throw
all
that
right.
in
I'm
there.
getting to it. Just
Okay, okay.
what I'm getting at is it's so fascinating that again, this is the sort of things like, oh, why revisit the well after Breaking Bad? And then what did they do? They impressed us all. Better Call Saul, and it's like all the characters in the Albuquerqueverse were so interesting, and I don't put it past these writers that if they really put their minds to it, they could make something really amazing with almost any of these characters. So I mean, I wouldn't doubt them, but I like that they are taking a break from things, and
Let's get a
whether
Lyle show.
I mean, hey, it's again, honestly, it would be at home on AMC right now, and AMC
Right.
is definitely trying to cash in on kind of the Breaking Bad alumni because Odenkirk's getting the show, Giancarlo's getting the show that he's
Oh,
leading
of
in,
course that's happening.
and even they brought back Cranston's show from Showtime that got canceled. Your Honor's
Oh,
coming back
man.
for season 2, and it's I think I have to check this, but I think it's going to be now on AMC. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sorry, like that's like good for those actors, but like AMC just has such a tendency, like they pulled that same shit with The Walking Dead of like, oh, this is the hot in thing right now, so let's just milk it.
But to be fair, again, good shows. At least with Your Honor, that one's actually absolutely an excellent show. And then we have
You're right. You're right. Yeah,
we have actors who absolutely can carry their own show, and Giancarlo deserves his own show. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
John Carlo, like he deserves his own show. I just feel like he's popped up so much. I honestly kind of like don't want John Carlo to like get overexposed.
but we've never seen him in a lead role, though. That would be interesting.
True.
Anyway, so episode itself blew me away. It was absolutely perfect, in which we hit every beat, and I love how we kind of call like a movie. We called back everything up to this point. I mean, everything. So all that said, again, I'm kind of delaying the inevitable because I don't want it to end, but it's been quite a ride, and we've reached the end of the road, the bad choice road, so to speak. So.
All right, so of course this episode is written and directed by the proverbial father of Better Call Saul himself, Mr. Peter Gould.
Yes, literally the man who pitched Saul Goodman. So absolutely we end on Saul's papa, Peter Gould. So of course, let me tell you the episodes that Peter Gould has both written and directed up to this point, which is quite the lineup. So he did Marco, which of course was the finale of season 1, which very much, again, the series it had kind of the Legend of Korra thing. They didn't know they were coming back. So the ending of season 1 essentially was the end of everything.
Right.
It could have been, but very possibly. I'm so glad it didn't end there. But yeah, so he did Nailed. Of course, the episode 9 standouts. Let's see, he did Something Unforgivable, the finale of season 5. And most memorably, I think the thing that really gave Peter Gould a lot of clout, he did Granite State.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, of course, Peter Gould does. He kind of, again, we kind of go back to the Book of Genesis here, as the episode kind of does for us here. So yeah, all right. So all that said, let's just dive right into it.
Okay, so we open with the teased car in the middle of the desert, the Esteem.
Yep, the Esteem and like rotting in the desert. Of course, the desert being a very kind of a formative place for Saul Goodman, and especially what happens later, and we coin it a couple times. I was in the desert, kneeling before a grave. We'll get there. So we see the grave of the Esteem. Anyway, the death of Saul Goodman's Esteem, one could say.
You know what's interesting is I kind of feel like that is a very good mirror image to the death of the RV.
It is. It always has been. It was bullet ridden. It was exposed and kind of corrupted by cartel life. Again, it was kind of like you took this humble little lawyer car and we drilled it full of holes and kind of action, which is so apropos to where Saul Goodman usually comes from. It's Breaking Bad, literally like tearing its talons into Jimmy McGill.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the flashback structure at play here, and essentially this was inspired by Christmas Carol. So they have like 3 different, kind of like check-ins with kind of our ghost, kind of basically 3 stern figures in Saul Goodman's life that kind of gave him guidance.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So our first flashback. Again, it's kind of all of our color segments, in the episode as well. So our first flashback is from Bagman. It's the aftermath of Bagman that we did not see. It's literally right after the space blanket hit a tumbleweed, and like he and Mike. Oh, the last time we're gonna be able to talk about the wonderful Jonathan Banks.
All right, Dragon. 1, 2, 3.
We love Mike. We love him.
Oh God.
No, we do. We adore not just Mike Ehrmantraut, the fantastic character, but Jonathan Banks, the man who just brought so much of that character.
I feel like Mike Ehrmantraut and Jonathan Banks in different forms, are going to be a source of running jokes even after Better Call Saul for us, Dragon. They gotta be.
Absolutely. I mean, Jonathan Banks is a character in himself, even without Mike, so of course. So,
Jonathan Banks, the guardian of the Oscars and Emmys.
exactly, the only man who won guardian of those statues. That gag will never die.
Chloe.
I need you to calm down, Chloe. All right, I need you to pull it back a little. Right, the camera
Look,
doesn't.
2020 was a weird year. The Academy agrees we shouldn't have probably even had a ceremony to begin with. So,
Chloe,
right.
the landscapes are very beautiful, but we have to move.
All right.
Okay, so the point being, we have this really, again, the space blanket, really nice foreshadow to the last of our flashbacks, by the way.
Can I just say the one thing I did have spoiled for me in this episode was that we were going to see Chuck.
Really?
Yeah, that was kind of spoiled, almost Entertainment Weekly style. Like I was just watching like a hype video for the season, kind of like 15 things that we need to have answered, and the guy just offhand like, well, we know that Chuck is coming back because Michael McKean was confirmed to have appeared in one episode. I was like,
So after all the hardship of Bagman, again, it's fitting that our two most cinematic episodes are kind of referenced here between this and here and all that. So they finally find some water and like kind of like a drainage thing or something. Like just basically kind
yeah,
of
and we remember like water, like that episode might be one of the most cinematic depictions of dehydration I have ever seen.
Oh, I agree. And again, those guys,
Like it's
everyone
that
in
in
that,
127 hours, I think.
I mean, everyone on the crew in Albuquerque when they shoot Better Call Saul, they've all been dehydrated at some point. So that's like well-worn territory for them. That's why it turned out so good. Anyway, so they finally find water. He's just running to it like Lawrence of Arabia, and he's dunking his head in there. And anyway, so
You're gonna make yourself sick.
So he and Mike have an opportunity to kind of have like a last conversation. Again, this mirrors the opening of El Camino, which opens with the flashback in which Jesse talks to Mike, and that kind of formulates the whole, where he's going, the whole Alaska thing.
Right.
So, anyway, we have the time machine question, which we learn the point of Genesis for by the end of things, but which is an excellent payoff to a little Easter egg at the top of the season.
Like I said, I think this whole time machine things is just I love it, Dragon. I love it. I think it adds such a cinematic flair. It's got like it's kind of like that perfect sort of like 3-act structure. And it's just such a great kind of like check-in point, and it really just kind of takes us back to like just how far this character's come, the road, just how big his decision he makes at the end of the episode is. I think it's perfect. I think the flashbacks in this episode, like, I don't think the episode would be what it is without the flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, again, the flashbacks are what's going through his head when he makes, the big choice that he makes. So, let's see. So, again, what was really great about this, too, is that, again, this takes it back to the finale of season 1, in which, Jimmy kind of throws out the idea, let's take the money and run. The whole, like, I'm not doing the right thing again. That whole kind of ending of season 1. So, he basically then kind of goes off and like, let's take the money and let's invest in a time machine. What would you do? What would you do if we took the money and we built that, so you wouldn't have to worry about anyone coming after the money? And essentially, of course, ultimately, as we're gonna have spelled out for us, is essentially Jimmy's way of asking about regrets, and Mike's regret. And this is really, I love that both their answers involve money in some regard. So Mike's regret is the day he took his first bribe, which is really
right.
sad.
But I love how he has to catch himself. He's tempted to say what I assume is the date that Maddie got killed.
I believe so. It's like he said 2001, which in 2002 is when he gets revenge and then he moves to Albuquerque. So probably, yeah, it's likely what happened. Yeah. So, but yeah, he basically says if I never did that, then things would have gone so well. And then what really just delighted me with Jonathan Banks and the way he says it. I'd go back to that day, and I wouldn't take the bribe, and then I'd go forward. And I'd check in on a few people.
Oh my God! Yes, I have the same thing. The whole checking in on a few folks. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the idea he wants to see, like, Kaylee in a happier kind of living space there, just like having her father and everything. That's delightful.
Sure.
So Saul Goodman, essentially, he would basically take the remaining $1 million from the 7 and invest and put it into Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire, I think. It's Berkshire Hathaway or something or other. And this is funny because Warren Buffett loves Breaking Bad. He actually visited the set during the show. Like, he has this gag. Every time you meet Warren Buffett, he loves it when people take pictures, like, tugging at his wallet.
Oh, God.
So they did that on the set.
That's funny.
To the point where he's like saying, "Is there such a thing as a trillionaire?" And then we have like the big question where Mike just kind of puts it on Front Street here, like, "That's it, money, nothing you change," which sets up the path. It's on his mind. Just the whole like, would you change anything? All right, so that's great. And again, he you see the idea. I like to think, and this is my headcanon for things in the episode. I like to think. At this point, he has never had a regret until Kim Wexler is in trouble, until like the black and white stuff that we find ourselves in. He's never had regret until like Kim's in peril, particularly like legally in peril because of his doing.
Yeah,
that's what I like,
especially given how things play out, for sure.
Right. Okay, so very memorable opening, which then brings us to Gene on the run.
The last stand of Gene Takovic.
Yeah.
So this is perfect. I love everything about this little.
I'm absolutely with you. You know what I love most about it?
What?
I love how realistic and grounded the police chase is. Like the fact of like we're not going overboard, we're not making it overly cinematic. It's just I love the fact. My favorite detail is like. He sees the cops at the front door. I'm jumping ahead from him. I'll backtrack in a second to Carol Burnett, but I just love that he's when he sees the cops outside of his door, he slips out the back and he kind of goes down like this like trestle, or I don't know if you call it trestle, like the little kind of like he slides down the place so he can get down to kind of runs out the back and down a hill, essentially. That's my favorite detail. It feels so real world to me that again, it's not like a glamorous escape. It's like he's got to run down, and it's basically he's in a maze of alleys and everything to run through. It's so grounded and realistic, and you have the most hyper realized aspect, but in a grounded way that we shot it. It's like it's the Goodfellas helicopter paranoia, but from the ground level, and no car and no like fancy angles. It's just like he's running, and you're in his headspace because you can't see it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we pick up right where we left off last episode, where he's out the door, and folks, you don't cross Carol Burnett. You don't threateningly like hold the telephone cord like you might strangle her either.
She just has like one final moment in the show, but it's so perfect.
Please get him.
I love it.
The world loves Carol Burnett, so what did they do? They got him. All right, so so much is perfect here. So again, so let's see. So the cops are everywhere. He ends up hiding in a dumpster. He's running with the shoebox the very important shoebox with all the important items.
It's almost like a sick joke, right? The fact that they hype up these diamonds for like, throughout all of the Gene stuff, only for the diamonds to literally just get lost in the most pathetic way possible.
So we'll also big season 1 nod with him in a dumpster yet again, going all the way back to the beginning of Jim McGill down on his luck as an attorney, trying to make it to, after all that, he's back in the dumpster.
I mean, it's just like, it is such a great, like Jimmy McGill has hit rock bottom. This is it. Digging around, like, he's trying to make that phone call, even though he knows it's probably not going to help. He knows he's probably not going to get out of it.
It's his only move. It's like the only move.
Trying to make the Hoover call. And then just like the desperation, Dragon, the sheer desperation of like, he knows he's fucked, but he's like, oh God, I got to get the diamonds. He retrieves like a couple of them. It's so nail biting.
Unequivocally, Tiki, unequivocally. What I love about two things. One, I love that with the tin of diamonds, remember, had he used that tin of diamonds and not handled the situation himself, he would have used the disappear, and I don't know if it would have fully solved his problems. Probably would have been another guy down the line, who knows, but he would have been out of there. It's like had he not handled it himself, had he used that Band-Aid tin. Of course,
honestly, had he not had a vendetta against cancer patients, he would have probably been fine.
Well, no, you're right about that. I'm just saying ultimately with that whole situation, regardless.
Yeah, I hear you.
of course, here's the only thing that was telegraphed for me. The only thing I could call in this whole thing really is the fact that, like, yeah, he's we don't have Robert Forster, so clearly we're not gonna disappear him again.
Right. I was honestly kind of wondering if we were going to get a thing where he makes the call, but the phone is disconnected.
Yeah. So with the phone, with the burner phone coming back yet again. With the burner phone, his undoing being he doesn't have like the he doesn't have like the cardboard that it was previously kept in. Instead, he has like the irritating vacuum form sealed plastic. Now, here's what's funny about this. I really want you to look into this after this if you can. Larry David, I was laughing so hard at this in like the most sad of ways because I was rooting for him. I was wondering until when he hit those diamonds, I was like gasping. But before that, I was just laughing hysterically because Larry David, there's this opening to one of the Curb Enthusiasm episodes. I think it's like season 6 or 7. He basically he's trying to open. I think he's trying to open a flashlight or something. He's trying to open something. It's vacuum form sealed and everything, and he's just impossible. He's yelling at it. It's just this hysterical gag of you just can't get it open, which is so realistic and true to life. That it's so terrible opening those things. So the fact that we did Gene's fate was a Curb Your Enthusiasm gag.
Right.
It was like, oh, he hit the diamonds and they all fell. It's like, oh my god. Such the most mundane.
I mean, let's face it. No matter what happened at that dumpster, he wasn't getting out of there. But still, yeah.
But I love the fact that again, you think there's like a safety in the dumpster, but they eventually caught up with him. They eventually.
Well, I mean, honestly, Dragon, I thought it was pretty clear. It's like the fucking police officer they pull right up to him. You know what I mean? It's like.
Yeah,
it'd have to be pretty lucky for them not to see him climb into the dumpster.
That's the impressive thing, though, Tiki. How many times have we seen that, though? Where, oh man, that guy's really lucky. That's a little convenient. Those cops did not look that way, but they looked that way, and they found him. You know what, Tiki? Just as a reminder of what got Gene into this situation in the first place, I think we should make a call because Jimmy was unable to make his call. We should make it for him.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
402.
Oh, it's not a 505. That's
no. 402.
402.
342.
342.
9288.
Right. Sorry.
Can we try again?
This same thing happened the last number we tried to call. Okay, give it to me again.
402.
402.
342.
342.
9288.
I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry.
Unbelievable. See, had we gone at another time, perhaps this bit would have worked.
God.
See, now I'm paranoid. I was going to have this whole bit later.
It's like how I pitched it of Saul in the dumpster and he tries calling the number, but it's disconnected.
Yeah, well.
I'm sorry, you had this whole bit later and what?
I had this whole bit later in which I know one number for a fact has been disconnected, and we were going to end on that, but
oh God,
we're doing that now. Just wrecks that. So great, just great. Anyway,
well, for once, it's not my fault.
Well, again, our chances would have been better, But
that's true. Yeah. That's actually true.
Yeah.
Although that situation also wasn't my fault, to be fair.
Anyway.
I can't control the weather.
Yeah, but you can control clumsiness and breaking a phone.
Okay, but that's a months-long issue, though. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, cumulative effects aside here. Point being, knock on the dumpster. He comes out, and we have our title image here. Where oh god, he's been caught. Gene, hands up. After all that hiding, after playing it so careful, he's been caught in a dumpster. Bum bum bum.
Yeah, and I feel like that's great, and we probably should have seen it coming. But I don't know why so many people just assumed this episode was going to be a lot of Gene on the run. I love how it's like literally like pretty much 10 minutes in. That's where we're at.
Yeah. So we're at the police station. I love that the cops are watching the ad. So they're hearing the famous
You are under arrest.
Hello, I'm Saul Goodman. So, of course, the cops are watching it, kind of looking a little bit in disbelief, like, is this the guy? So, let's see. So then he's calling the girls at the cinema. I like this detail. Of the fact that he used this one. Well, again, here's the thing. In real life, you're not just limited to one phone call. I like how we kind of dispelled that here. So, again, that's kind of a fun little, you never are just stuck with one phone call. That's like a thing that's been in media for the longest
I don't know why that happened. Like, I don't know where that
Well,
was.
it's dramatic. You need the one phone call, and that's it's probably something like that. I think a dramatic licensing just never got disputed.
Uh-huh.
So the point being, he uses his first phone call, I guess, or his main phone call to call the girls at the Cinnabon, tell them that they're going to need a new manager, and it doesn't spell out the whole situation because they're going to find out soon enough.
Which is the most Gus Fring-esque thing that Jimmy ever does, I think.
Very true, very true. Because he does.
That's
He was
all
always
I
nice.
thought about when that happened.
He was always nice to those ladies.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so we just have him utterly sad and defeated, and again, he's reconciling with the fact he's in the end game now. Like all that money he spent to change his identity and everything, all down the crapper. It only lasted for like probably maybe if he's however long. Well, I guess maybe a year. He had bought himself a year. That's about as much as he got, roughly. So I love that he's in it. I love how we homage so much of the Gene stuff in having it all pay off here. Like we had the diamonds, we had we had the diamonds, and we had a bunch of obviously Carol Burnett and everything. And that what we had here is the opening of season 2. He is he's stuck in a little stone room with something carved on the wall.
Sure.
Yeah, I just really like that detail. All these
so Odenkirk's performance in this scene, Dragon, I think it's his crawl space.
Oh, it absolutely is his crawl space. So basically, it's kind of a crawl space moment of this cosmic irony, but it also gives him an idea. So it's kind of a crawl space, but with a happy ending.
Yeah, I like that though. You're right. It's like it's kind of like a crawl space that morphs into a classic Jimmy McGill scheme.
I love that he's like I love.
But I feel like the initial like crack up, the actual crawl space-esque emotion of it all, basically being so at the bottom of the barrel that all you can do is just hysterically laugh. Yeah. Like that is very much real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the cosmic irony of my lawyer will ream you, and essentially just seeing that carved there, and he's just laughing hysterically, like, "Oh God, I'm a lawyer in the situation, looking at this right now." In fact, he's in the end game, and I love when he's in the panic, saying, "This is how they get you. This is how they get you." He's reconciling. This can't be how he's basically the fan base. This can't be how it ends. So he gets an idea here with the whole lawyer thing. So basically, I like to think what he's figuring out here is, okay, I'm caught. This was an inevitability. So what am I gonna do? I gotta go more.
Better call Oakley.
Yes, I would suggest we call Oakley, but I'm feeling unlucky tonight. Let's say. Regardless, yes. So point being, we call Oakley, but I think basically his idea here is I got to be more Saul Goodman than I've ever been before. I get basically if I'm going out famously, as like Saul Goodman, like the trial of Saul Goodman. I'm gonna do something historic with my last ditch effort here because there's no chance of victory, but there's chance of still coming out on top. So when he calls Bill Oakley, he answers. He drops the files like an utter shock.
That's great. God. That's great. That what that reminds me of. I feel like that's almost a call to the woman dropping the bag of oranges in Breaking Bad.
Yep. No, absolutely. Carol with the oranges. Yeah. Let's see. So of course he calls.
Which, by the way, I remind you, Entertainment Weekly spoiled that for me. That whole cold open. Anyways.
Yep. Let's see. So he calls Oakley, and basically Oakley. He's going full Saul Goodman now, finding his second win. He basically says, "Oh, you're taking the case, Bill. This is a career maker. Of course you are." He says, "What do you expect to get out of this? To come out on top, like I always do."
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. All right, so honestly, it's kind of a parallel to Walter White, which is going to be important later in the episode, where again he's going to go out on his own terms. In this case, an illegal standing versus kind of like a mortality standing.
Okay, so so I would say, is it fair to say that the crawl space breakdown was the death of Gene Takovic?
Yeah, Gene's gone completely. Yeah.
And then after that, Saul Goodman emerges for Act 2 of the finale.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just
yeah.
kind of tracing the Jimmy personas.
Yeah, and then basically when we do the last scene, that's when we get into the fourth guy, kind of muddies the waters, but we'll get there. Anyway, yes. So let's see. So point being, we have the plea negotiation. So ironically, and I love this catch too, by the way, all the way back to season 1. Ironically, he is facing his own RICO charge, which is what the whole Sandpiper Crossing case was about.
Right,
It was
right,
basically
right.
charging the retirement home as like a RICO case, like you would in a criminal trial. Which again, when you think about it, now that we're at the end, when you think about the irony of just like, oh my God, he charged like a really mundane thing, like a big criminal case, and that's what landed him a whole bunch of money. So that's kind of like the mundane meets the Breaking Bad. So it's kind of funny. Anyway, so roughly we're looking at like 27 predicate violations, conspiracy, laundering, the accessory to murder after the fact. He's looking at life plus 190 years.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
Could be better. So basically he's so basically Saul here, he's looking at the two-way mirrors, and when he walked in, he saw a familiar face, Tiki.
Yes.
And it's a familiar face. I love that we all caught, like the moment we saw, like, oh my God, it's her. And he is also distracted by this fact. The widow, she's on the other side. Bring her in. She deserves it. Bring her in. And I love that this is a power move by him. Basically, the show, like, I'm gonna show. Basically, I'm gonna use her for leverage here. And I love that it was kind of an in the moment thing. He had no idea. He might have had a vague idea that she'd be there, but I love that I was like, okay, I'm gonna work this to my advantage.
I also think it makes sense that out of all of Walt's extended family, she would be the one to show up for this trial.
Of course, because Skylar wants to stay the heck away from it.
Yeah, totally.
She can. Totally. Like she's in the green with them. And of course, Marie Schrader returns. Betsy Brandt, she's back. Also, fun note: I know it's in black and white, but just so you know, she is not wearing purple anymore.
Really? Okay.
So they confirmed that ever since Hank died, no more purple.
Oh God, that sucks.
Yeah, that's the thing. All the happiness
that
out of her life
like opens up the wound of Hank dying all over again. Dragon.
Yep.
Because it's like a part of her died with Hank. Oh God,
I know that's the thing. That was the saddest thing.
Tragic. Now that I
heard them on the Insider podcast. They were up. Hey, is she wearing purple? And Peter Gould confirmed. Actually, no, she's not wearing purple. And there's your logic. So Marie Schrader, basically, she gets her closure here in this, and it's bittersweet closure, mind you, but she gets closure. It's essentially kind of like.
I mean, I think the word of this episode is like bittersweet with a capital B, just all the way around.
Oh, absolutely! It's a B in the Better Call Saul font.
Who's B? Couldn't resist.
Yep. Betsy, not Betsy Brandt, Betsy Kettleman. Anyway, so
oh god, Dragon, imagine a Breaking Bad ABC book.
Oh, it'd be fantastic.
And it's like and of course all of it would be like the periodic table.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
J is for Jesse. All right.
All right, let's see. So basically, of course, Marie just kind of a reminder of I love that we use Marie Schrader very strategically here, and we use her as a reminder of that, folks. You shouldn't be rooting for Saul Goodman because look what he did to this poor woman by accessory to the fact and all that sort of stuff. Look what he did to her.
Mm-hmm.
Much as we are rooting for him, again, it kind of grounds things, and also the way we bring her back, and she goes through her whole spiel about how great Hank was and Gomi. I like to think what we're kind of doing here is framing Hank Schrader as kind of this Hank Schrader was a salt of the earth guy who became noble as he went on. In a sense, he might represent a life path that Jimmy McGill could have taken with his cleverness. Like he could have done something in the benefit of law, like Hank Schrader did. quite possibly, had he been on the straight and narrow and just kind of like used it there, would have taken a lot longer, but had not taken the shortcut. But, who knows?
Mhm.
Anyways, I like to think that's maybe, because again, we did have Hank Schrader in Better Call Saul earlier, so it kind of gives it like an extra weight to why Hank was there, outside of like the fact that, well, he does lead into kind of our Breaking Bad connect, but So we have the AUSA, George Castellano. He's there basically. He's like he's the prosecutor, because this is like a national federal kind of case of sorts here, massively across the world with all the meth distribution and everything. So he's offering the one-time deal of 30 years, but Saul Goodman has other plans, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I know you had to have loved this, Tiki. He basically used confession.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think it's as chilling as Confession. I still think Confession is the single most evil thing that Walter White ever did.
I agree with that, but by the same token, I think this equal to Confession is one of Bob Odenkirk's finest moments of acting as Saul Goodman. It is so ridiculous. Basically, let me just way. This is his "Say My Name" moment. We finally gave him a "Say My Name" moment, like right here. I really like to think so, because we have that moment where we have this great impassioned performance by Bob Odenkirk as a very very sympathetic kind of Saul Goodman, who again, we the audience obviously we know that he's framing it, he's basically playing the victim card again, a la Confessions.
Because it's like one of the big things about the last half of the season is it really emphasized that it was very much his call to engage with Walter White.
And we very much hit the point that he and Kim essentially built Breaking Bad behind the scenes. They made it Breaking Bad could have ended after season 1 had Saul Goodman not been there. I'm saying it would have ended with them not getting as far as they did without Saul Goodman being there.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim Wexler steering him in the direction of Saul Goodman ultimately. So, with that, again, we're doing the thing where he's framing. He's using the truth so fantastically strategic here, where it's like, hey, Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, they kidnapped me, threw me in the desert, and they put a gun to my head, which forced me to work with them, which is true. And then he frames it that, again, much like Walter White, I was in fear of Hank Schrader, which is so twisted.
Exactly.
Which, think about how twisted it is that he's using that con, which surely Walter White told him about, by the way, to Marie Schrader.
Right. Totally.
It's
right
8 levels
to her face. Yeah.
8 levels of twisted. Anyway, so just to me, here's the "Say My Name" moments. After all that, Castellano, he basically sees through and says, "You can't possibly believe anyone's going to buy this," and then his response is like, "Do you think anyone's going to buy it?" One. That's all it takes, and that's the turn that he makes there. That's the "Say My Name."
That is a good "Say My Name" pool. I like that pool for sure. I didn't even think about that when it was going on, but yeah, I can see it.
One. All it takes is one. And he basically gets into his head, and he's like, "Yeah, you're." He turns it on so chillingly after a very sympathetic performance, despite it being complete BS. And he's just going on about like, so you've never won a case. And again, it's like Saul Goodman knows about winning and losing in life, as we've seen through 6 seasons now, and he sees this guy. He sees his poker face, like cuts right through the core of this guy. He knows the moment he sat across this guy, he knew what he was going to pull here. He knew, I can scare this guy into any plea deal I want easily, because he's never lost. He has nothing to lose. Well, he has everything to lose. He doesn't know failure. I know failure.
Sure.
So that gives him the advantage here. This guy's never tasted desperation, really. So he's not. Anyway, so Marie's going, you're not going to negotiate with this man. He just has that cagey look of like, get her out of the room. And she leaves. Then we cut to, after a very rigorous, arduous, and lengthy lunch, we have a negotiation that's going on for the plea deal of Saul Goodman. And amazingly, Saul Goodman has like the most. I like this. He's going out on a high note, essentially. If I'm going out absolutely on my terms, which is I've achieved the most historic plea deal known to man.
Yeah, freaking like lifetime plus 100-something years reduced to 7 years.
7.5, but ultimately 7. You're right. It did get scaled down to 7.
Superpower.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was more like 30 to 7 with what they were offering. But you're right, though. Starting from life plus 190,
right?
7 years. and also not just that, not just 7 years, but 7 years at a cushy Bernie Madoff prison.
Totally. Yeah.
Like the tennis, like the golf. It has there's a prison that you can play golf at. FGI Butnerlow, North Carolina, Wing D. And because he knows, he knows that they're going to send him to the Alcatraz of the Rockies with the ADX Montrose, given the chance. And ultimately, they will definitely be trying to do that. So yeah, just utterly just amazing and gobsmacking. Then Tiki, what does he do?
What does he do, Dragon?
Quotes the great Steve Jobs. One more thing. I want Bluebell mint chip ice cream on every Friday while incarcerated.
About that. So Bluebell. It's got to be Bluebell.
So much like Icarus, old Saul Goodman here, he flies too close to the sun on wings made of billboards. So that's that thing. So he basically tries to parlay the Howard Hamlin murder into this ask, and again purely for the ask of he got something historic after all these. I think what's so great about all this, by the way. I'm sorry, I just want to throw this in there.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Bill Oakley. The reason Bill Oakley's back, honestly, the main reason that they loved him so much, it's so amazing that they love this character actor so much they put him through the entirety of the series.
Yeah, he was always supposed to be the one-off guy in that one episode.
I mean, yeah, ultimately, yeah, and really just the first season, but mainly that one episode.
Petty with a prior.
Yeah, he was just a one shot they kept bringing back through the season. It's like, we just love this guy. Keep bringing him back.
And ultimately, I really love how he ended up because it's like he ultimately kind of becomes like again, another example of like this might have been what Jimmy could have been if he would have stayed on the straight and narrow.
Had he stayed a PD lawyer, he would have been this guy who eventually would have maybe had his own practice. Now here's the thing. The reason he calls Oakley, I like to think, is for the following reasons. He has no friends left. Oakley's the closest thing he has to a friend. That's one. Two, I think it's that, honestly, he wants to show off. He wants to show off to Oakley. He doesn't, because he represents himself. Oakley is co-counsel. I mean, mainly it's a dog and pony. He wants to make it look like he got a lawyer when really he's going to be calling.
No, I absolutely. That's kind of how I read it. Was just the whole idea of like he wants Oakley specifically because Oakley will make him look good. It's not like he actually wants to use Oakley like legally.
I think ultimately he knows for the fame of it all. He knows Oakley's going to be the guy writing the tell-all book. So why not?
That's true. Yeah.
And thirdly, I think the most important reason, I think the cosmic reason, I think the best reason of all, honestly, why Oakley's there in the context of our story. Think about it. Their whole relationship is based on plea deals. So we bring him in for the ultimate like historic plea deal, and he's going to bear witness to it. That's utterly a wonderful thing I've seen in the show.
It's almost kind of like one last chance for him to rub it in his face.
Yes, and he's brought his buddy.
Like, look what I can do, Bill.
brought the guy he's been wheeling and dealing with for years, and brought him to like this big moment, like he's going to the Olympics of plea deals.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so basically, the crack in the armor forms here. They inform Kim Wexler revealed all. She confessed to the whole Howard Hamlin murder, and they love it. They're rubbing in his face after all he's put him through here over the midship.
He's bringing up the Hamlin thing. He's bringing up the Hamlin thing.
You don't talk to your ex that much, do you?
Right.
So ultimately, the crack in the armor of Kim Wexler is forged here. Of course, she representing Jimmy McGill's conscience and his humanity. And again, it's less the fact that he's just kind of embarrassed here, but more the fact of like he learns this Kim detail that is going to basically the stakes have now entered the frame for him. Though he wasn't really concerned because he could outmaneuver any judge, but Kim Wexler's fate being in peril that perturs him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And of course, this is after everything we saw on Waterworks with, the toxic phone conversation that could have gone better, the terrible way in which he treated her, like with the divorce thing. So, I'm sure he's got a lot of emotional baggage with how everything's gone down with Kim.
Unequivocally. So that brings us to our second flashback.
All right. And I had also heard with Walt, this wasn't really a spoiler. I had just kind of like heard from the jump that we were going to get one scene of Walt and Jesse together, and then individual scenes of them solo. So I knew Walt was going to pop up here. I kind of expected it to be the where we saw it, the disappear in this time frame. But I love all the context here.
I went into it very clean because I was already impressed. Like, oh god, we only needed the one flash. We only needed that one episode with the two of them, and then we had Jesse. I never thought I didn't consider because I was so focused on the Saul Goodman side of things. I didn't consider. Oh yeah, Heisenberg would come back if they wanted to.
Mhm.
So
I like how Walt is essentially having like a mini Fly moment.
yes. Now what's great about this too is the fact that we've had. Think about this. We have two appearances of Cranston. We use him as the anti-hero Walter White, and we now use him as the villain. The villain, Mr. Grumpy Heisenberg.
Mm-hmm.
I think I love he's like full on Grumpy Heisenberg. Like no, like Walter White would have entertained this question that Saul poses to him. Heisenberg, not in the slightest.
Sure. I think you're right. Yeah.
That's the thing. They're sharing a cell. They're sharing a cell for probably like a week or a few days while the Disappear's getting things ready for Walt and Saul. And again, this is like pre-Gene, like the week pre-Gene or what have you. And I love how think about this. Their fates have been connected, and the significance of that scene in Breaking Bad is like, hey, this is where Saul Goodman ends for the longest time, and Gene Takovic, goes, and essentially Walter White is passing on his burden of like everything he went through in Breaking Bad to Gene, essentially, to like the whole like I'm going to transfer my point of creation here. You being an older man in a position of powerlessness in your life, in which you have to be a meek guy. You can't speak up. You're gonna have a mustache. You're gonna all mustache and glasses. All of that very mundane job. That's gonna be you. That's gonna be your starting point. So that's kind of like the curse that he passes on to him. So I love how their fates have been interlocked, and ultimately the whole cancer, scamming the cancer man, and all that. It all came full circle very perfectly. And also, I mean, a huge context of this episode is like, will he be as monstrous as Heisenberg in this episode? Like he was threatening Carol Burnett, and again, he could have left Kim high and dry.
I think the Carol Burnett thing is probably the most threatening he ever gets. Like that's the peak of him, like it being a bad person.
Yeah, that's again, we were kind of teeing up like Willie. Like I think his fear is that he would end up like Heisenberg, which again was kind of why he hesitated in that moment. So we're kind of seeing that yet again here.
Yeah.
So Walt, I think that the Fly-esque thing that we're doing here with the water heater, it's two things. One, Walt always obsessed with water heaters because remember he was trying to distract himself during, I think it was season two or three. I can't remember when he was filming.
It was two.
Yeah. So he's fiddling with the water heater in season 2. So it's a little bit of a nod to that, why he's so obsessed with like the water heater. But more so, Walt's very controlling. It's the ego of Heisenberg in which I need to be in control of this desperate situation I'm in right now, despite losing my family and everything. I have to be in control of something.
Right.
So we have the time machine question.
And like you said, Walt he wants none of it.
Yes,
just from the jump, he's like just questioning the validity of actual time travel mechanics, and
you're bringing up quantum mechanics now? A time machine? I love how incredulous he delivers. Like Doc, like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Would you build a time machine out of a DeLorean? So I love the ultimate. This is again. I love that when you look at Heisenberg and Walter White, it's this great offshoot of just how far he's come. Where he's just like the guy who's like in uncharted waters to us. The guy just being so ticked off about everything. He's so grumpy. Just the whole. It's like, look, what you're asking about is regret. If you want to ask about regret, just ask about regret.
Right.
Alan Alda. He's the expert. Anyway, all these kind of fun lines that we're getting from Cranston. So, if obviously, long story short, he regrets the gray matter of it all. And we have the watch. I love that he does. You know what's great about that watch?
What?
He's not perturbed by any of the violence or the atrocities that he's committed. They're best summed up with that watch, which we mentioned earlier, with all those murders in a prison committed at the same time.
Very true. Very true.
It's a good symbol of that. Not bothered by any of that, but bothered by the gray matter situation of it all. Again, a monument to his ego.
And of course, we have the Jimmy. First of all, I did think it was a little poignant that we brought it all full circle around to the knee thing.
I know, right? Because he's been his first line to them is, "I have bad knees."
I got bad knees.
He's been saying that through the whole series, and even we never even saw it. A part of me always wondered at the beginning, would we see the knee injury in Better Call Saul? And we didn't, because he'd been mentioning the knee injury. But it makes sense though. If he'd been doing slip and falls, he would have injured his knee that way. That's great.
Sure.
And also, I love he calls out the gray matter thing of like, you should have told me, man. I could have sued those guys for you. But Walt really knows where to stick the knife here. He sticks the knife in two big ways. You are the last lawyer I would have ever gone to.
Mm-hmm.
And then, after he learns about the slip and fall, outside like a Marshall's or Mayfield's or somewhere, so you were always like this. Like, that line really hurts, man.
No, it does, especially because like this is the finale. We actually have seen the arc that Jimmy has been on. We know it's a full transformation. We know he's a very three-dimensional character. So yeah, and what I kind of read it as is like basically this is kind of like an amalgamation of how Jimmy feels that people on a whole are going to view him.
Yeah, again, it always hurt him, like when people called him ambulance chaser. It's always like a really mean name you can call a lawyer. It's very, bear in mind, it's very accurate, especially for where Jimmy started. But yes, it's essentially, yeah, it's just this. It's giving him a lot to think on. The fact that Walter White can't summon a kind word about Sullivan after everything he did for him. I don't know. It's just really it is a very poignant line. Again, it's kind of like the ghost of Christmas. Again, it's kind of a ghost of Christmas, past or present, or whichever ghost you like to use for this example. I was like, so you've always been like this, and you haven't learned anything. You haven't changed. Like, you're just you've become this terrible person,
right?
And you've always been that fundamental. You're basically reminding him this is your path, which again will be echoing in his mind for the big moment of change. So, one plane ride later, we have the plane ride with the marshal.
Indeed.
On the plane with him. Oakley exposits the civil suit that Kim faces, and that basically, especially if he gets his plea deal the way it's going, she's really on the chopping block more than she was before. Like, Mrs. Hamlin is lawyer shopping as they speak. Like that's like they're going to be very desperate. I read it as it's a civil suit that she's pursuing, but what judge in their right mind, after this guy gets off scot-free and no one went down really for the in a hard way for the Heisenberg of it all, we got to make someone pay. We're going to make this lady pay in a civil case.
Yeah, right. And like you said, like the stakes with Kim just get significantly raised throughout the episode. It's ultimately like I love how so much of this is playing out much like how a lot of the series is played out, with the audience not really sure what Jimmy's intentions are, but knowing that his gears are turning in his head.
Yeah. So, and also I love that they're having the privileged conversation. The thing about they're having the privileged conversation in front of the marshal, who he knows is going to report all of this in, which he does, and that's how they get Kim there.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Really clever, really smart. So, speaking of Kim, she lands this gig helping people as a legal aid, which is a really nice thing for her. She kind of went back to the law after she kind of cleared her conscience, at least in a small capacity.
I like that we get the one last little bit of life with the sprinkler company, and just we double emphasize the fact that she cannot make decisions.
Yeah,
like they're just asking her a simple question about like something about like Red Lobster or Olive Garden or some mundane bullshit like that, and she can't commit to it. Dragon, she just can't commit to it. She can't commit to any sort of decision.
No, it's like the Miracle Whip thing all over again.
Right, exactly.
So, it's just so sad. Like, we took this wonderfully clever woman who's put her in, because again, for good reason though, she's afraid of ruining lives with decisions.
Sure.
So, but I like that she kind of ends up, she's answering.
If I recommend the wrong restaurant, they'll get food poisoning and die.
I love that in being a legal age, she's kind of in Francesca's shoes, by the way.
It's almost kind of like baby steps in a way, you know?
Oh, it absolutely is baby steps, yeah. And that's the idea being she probably worked her way up from that, in terms of getting her bar card back.
Right, exactly.
So Erickson calls and tells her about the trial, and that basically her fate is very entwined in, and she should show up.
Mm-hmm.
So Saul Goodman returns, man. I love how we mirrored the shot where he's walking down in cuffs and in the the MDC kind of outfit, like the whole the prisoner outfit. But now he's walking down with pride. It's his big shining moment. Saul Goodman returns,
full on suit with the ribbon, Dragon.
Yeah, with the ribbon,
the fucking ribbon. I love the ribbon.
I love that it's back. So, they're probably trying to play some sympathy of I still remember, as he's always done.
Right.
You remember the running gag in Breaking Bad, right? The fact that it happened so long ago, but he kept wearing that ribbon all throughout it. So
exactly. Yeah.
Because again, he still tried doing class actions. You know what's funny though? Now that we have Better Call Saul in the mix, you can now kind of lay into things like, hey, the reason he's pushing so hard for that ribbon outside of the obvious sympathy play, he's always been trying to get class action going, so he's been trying to recapture another multi-million-dollar sandpiper settlement.
Totally.
Trying to go for another one of those. All right. Anyway, so he walks in with pride, and the marshal's like, "Oh, this guy." He walks in with pride, and he walks in the courtroom. He sees Kim in person, which he hasn't seen her in years. It's a big moment, and he sits down there, and this is so Odenkirk. We have to get to the moment there, so we're almost there. We're almost there when we get to the fourth guy. So let's see. So basically, the judge. We start the proceedings of this. I like that. The foundation of the show has been we never want to see him in court, and we started the show off in a courtroom in the midst of not a trial with a jury, but a trial with we have judges making a decision in the case. And we still never did a full-on trial, but this is as grandiose as we ever got, and we saved it for the very end. This is
wait, was chicanery not a full-on trial?
No. The chicanery is like a bar hearing, Tiki.
It's a hearing. Okay.
Yeah, it's a hearing. Again, those lawyers, they're basically judging should we take the guy's bar card or not.
Gotcha.
One thing, we never did the traditional Law and Order jury trial. They were always afraid of because that's been shot.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, there's courtroom stuff, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's saying we've been in court. I'm just saying it's usually a case in which a judge will make a call or do a plea deal or something. There's never been a jury trial in Better Call Saul, as far as I can tell.
Sure.
Even you go back to the first one, I don't believe there was a jury in that box, and even if there was, that was
I don't
the only
think
time.
so. I think you're right. I think it was a sentencing.
That's the thing. It's exactly. So point being though, this is as close as we've ever gotten to it. But in terms it's a case of a big scale, and yet it's a plea. It's a sentencing plea deal sort of thing. So it's not. Again, it's still not a big flashy trial. So we kept to our guns through the duration of the series. We never chickened out. Chicanery was as grandiose as it kind of got, and ultimately and that still wasn't a court case. Anyway, so Judge here is questioning this insane plea deal of are you sure in my 22 years on the bench, I've never seen a deal like this? And Oakley's writing down, hey, don't worry about it. They're always going to go with the government's. The judge is bringing this up for the record. She's never going to go against what the government's suggesting. Mm-hmm. Which is nice. Oakley just trying to be hey, don't worry about it, buddy. We're all good. Just trying to do a job.
Does he know, Dragon? Little does he know.
He's just there for eye candy. That's literally what it is. Oakley is the candy on Saul Goodman's arm at this hearing.
Oh, God. Right.
Better call Oakley. Anyway, so again, the prestige of... Anyway, so he's... so things are going on here. So Odenkirk here attests that this is honest Saul. That's essentially, this is the fourth person out. It's kind of honest Saul Goodman. Because think about it, he doesn't have doesn't have the hair combed like the old way. It's it's kind of like the Gene Takovic, but without the mustache. But he's also, it's a combination of all the personalities ultimately. It's the integrity of Jimmy McGill coming through ultimately. The look of Gene Takovic in the face. And obviously the prestige of Saul Goodman. So it's kind of a mixture of all of them.
Got it.
So it's Honest Saul. I've nicknamed him Honest Saul, but essentially
Honest
that's
Saul.
because again, he ultimately when he breaks down, he does like take the rap and falls on the sword for Kim.
Of course.
So again, I love that he breaks the cardinal rule Saul Goodman always said: keep your mouth shut.
Right, for sure.
Where he goes up there and he just can't help himself, and he's initially you think he's showing off in front of the judge, but in reality it's so cruel too because he's literally parodying. He like rehearsed it in front of Maurice Schrader's reacting in hard, like, oh, it was so phony and fake that he's using it to get off to his advantage again. And it's the fact that it's like a real jerk move, like, hey, we've already agreed to these terms, but I'm going to say it again to get it on the record to make you guys look bad because you know it's BS. I'm going to get it on the record. But then he makes the turn. But it was all me. It was all I made Walter White. Without me, he would have been captured or killed in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, to everyone's shock, and I love this. This is a realistic detail because ordinarily lawyers always call out this BS on legal shows. They're like, no, you can't speechify in court unless it's your turn. You can't do that. But the prosecution is like, no, we want to let him go on. Let him do it. We're okay with this. This is all good with us. He's destroying his plea deal. Let him go on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is delightful. It's like, yeah, they hate this guy. They want him to wreck his deal. So it goes on, and for 16 months, it built the
I like how
empire.
Oakley's like trying to get out of being the official lawyer on the case.
Can I recuse myself from the case? No. Just great. I love how he like calls out like I lied about Kim Wexler. She wasn't culpable in the Howard Hammer. I wanted to get her here so she could hear all this. He says it under oath after he's sworn in, which is great. So he goes on. He basically clarifies all that, his involvement and such, and then he cops the Howard Hamlin. And then on a note, I love that Oakley calls out that's not even a crime with Chuck.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. He brings up that the whole thing with Chuck, that he basically got his malpractice, and again we've been teeing this up that he felt guilty ever since Howard told him this, that oh my god, I killed my own brother, and he's been stowing it away, so he kind of like absolves himself in the court of law. And what's really sweet is that he kind of does what Chuck always wanted him to do. He came clean, he took his lumps, which is kind of again it's bittersweet. He kind of finally did. He kind of got in trouble for his brother.
All
right. So anyway, so he does all this. There's like chaos in there, and he has this like really moving look with Kim Wexler. You kind of exchange looks there, and he's again he has remorse versus Walter. Think about this. At the end of the day, Jimmy McGill kind of reared his head again. He felt remorse, where Walter White just accepted what he did with the whole "I did this because I liked it." That's not like I feel bad about this. That's like, yeah, I did it. I liked it.
Yeah, it's not exactly a comeuppance per se. It's more just an admission of guilt.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. Yeah, it's not exactly like there's no redeeming Walter White really. There's just he didn't let Jesse die. That's the nicest thing he did. All right, so the point being, all the chaos and obviously the plea deals in the toilet now, and Kim's like looking at him with love, and then we have our final flashback, the furthest back that we go in our flashbacks.
Yeah, this one hurt a little bit.
Yeah, this is okay. So this is set right before season 1 of Better Call Saul.
Right.
Yeah, this is the status quo before we begin our story, essentially. Possibly when he started bringing him stuff, for all we know, it's unclear. So yeah, so deep down, this is why I think this scene fundamentally is why he fell on his sword. Saul Goodman, he took a. He never imagined. He took the path his brother never imagined that he'd take, because his brother just kind of gave up on him. Like but we had this moment where he kind of brought it up though, of like you could change your path, but you don't know how sincere Chuck was about that.
Yeah, I don't think he was very sincere. I don't think Chuck ever was very sincere with Jimmy.
Yeah, and it's really great that I think Chuck was, I don't know, I might be crazy with this, Tiki, but I like in McKeon's performance when he came back, I think he added a layer. Now, obviously, we, the audience, know this, but I'd like to think now, especially now after seasons, he knows this. I like to think there's a bit of sorrow in Chuck where, Jimmy, he knows that he's doing Jimmy dirty, but he will not change. He won't change what he's doing. But I think he knows it and you kind of see that in the moment as it's played. Am I crazy? Did you get any of that?
No, I can see that for sure.
So again, with Jimmy helping his brother as the struggling PD lawyer, and I love that ultimately, just in rounding things out for the history of this character, Jimmy, he faces the music that in the first place, again, like Saul Goodman getting out of prison is what caused all of this. The whole Chuck bailing him out of prison for the first time. So it's kind of setting the scales right.
That was ultimately kind of like, if the show has an inciting incident, that's one of them for sure.
But think about it. It's a hypocritical thing that happened where Chuck McGill's all about law and taking your lumps and everything and doing things the right way. Yet everything that happens is because he made a personal call for family. That's really interesting. Yeah. So again, Chuck basically his question here. Chuck kind of questions, why Jimmy does this for him. And it's a really nice question we never addressed. Like, Chuck asking, Jimmy, you don't have to do this. Other people could bring me the stuff I need here. And then Jimmy does it because he's his brother. And again, it's the personal kind of tie there. Like, I'm making a personal choice because he was deep down. Jimmy's always been touched that Chuck bailed him out of that situation. It's that gratitude. Then he cuts him down with I hope that's not the Motel Ice machine. Ice. As we just have the same, and that sad line. It's that we have to keep having the same conversation, don't we? And it's that realization that things aren't going to change. We take the path we're going to take, and then we cut to that lantern. Darn it, that lantern is the big symbol of fate.
All right.
Yep. All right. So that brings us to we go on a field trip, Tiki. We're going to prison. Oh, and the Time Machine book. We saw the Time Machine book there, and that Time Machine book is at the very top of the season in Saul Goodman's house.
Indeed.
I'm sorry, back to the prison bus.
So, this, I think, is exactly what makes the ending bittersweet, and dare I say, almost borderline happy in a way. Just the idea that, like, and here's the thing, Dragon, like, when the scene first started playing out, I was getting a little bit worried, like, oh my God, are they going to paint thing like, okay, Jimmy is screwed because literally everybody recognizes him. It's like he's kind of like cornered from all sides, right? Like that's kind of like where I thought they were going.
And remember, they teed up the whole, like a whole bunch of people, including a lawyer colleague of his, was shivved in prison because of Walter White. So a lawyer's dying in prison, a la Walter White. And again, remember, the neo-Nazis are probably not happy with him.
It's funny, Dragon, because you remember that stupid dream I had that we won't get into, but that was very much kind of like in the back of my mind.
Exactly. So I'm saying I like that there was a legitimate threat that we did bring up with the prison. And he is going to the prison he feared, by the way. He goes to ADX Montrose, which is exactly to the Alcatraz of the Rockies. So he's going there to the worst prison because they had the opportunity to send him there. And a bunch of rough customers, and it's not going well for him.
So I think that ultimately, with the chant of Better Call Saul and everything like that, and the way that like the prisoners kind of revere him, Dragon, I think this is a hell of a happier ending for Saul Goodman than the Gene Takovic fate was.
Yeah,
I think Saul is legitimately like in a better place now than he was at the Cinnabon.
I mean, yeah, exactly, Tiki, because he's in a prison where he doesn't have to hide, though, where everyone knows him. He's famous.
He doesn't have to hide. He can be himself. He actually has respect. He probably has friends.
Yeah, again, it's basically people. It's the idea they love more so than Slipping Jimmy. They love the guy who's like, hey, he's a friend of criminals. He's helped criminals. He's a guy who knows things, and also he's one of us. He is a criminal himself. So, and plus, he's like the only survivor of the most legendary criminal act in history in the Albuquerque verse. So, this guy is a legend in every capacity. So, and he's the guy who went down.
So, I think that is like an absolutely fucking perfect happy ending. I really do. Like I think it's so much more exciting because even if you would have gotten out of the Gene thing and gotten into a new idea, that wouldn't have been satisfying at all, because we would have known it would have eventually like looped back around to the same situation, I think this is just perfect. Anyways,
it is. And also, I love that. Like he's kind of still. I like how we reframe things again. Like the Cinnabon was a worse prison than the prison he's at now. It's also in black and white, and also he's still baking baked goods. He's making bread instead of the Cinnabon. That's my favorite detail. He's making bread. And also, it's twofold. It's twofold. One, it's the Cinnabon, and two, he's making the colloquialism for money. He's making bread.
Right. Sure.
Which is, it's so cute. That's such a cute idea. So the guard, everyone's calling him Saul, like, hey, Saul, your lawyer's here.
Yeah, even the guards really like him.
Yeah, how can you not? He's charming.
Yeah.
So he's not at risk to anybody right now, so he's all good. So again, he's not in the swanky prison. He goes to visit his lawyer, which to his surprise is Kim Wexler, who got her. The idea is like her bar card did not have an expiration date, and really what it is because Jimmy fell on his sword. She did not go down for those Hamlin charges. Ergo, her legal standing is intact. So he did that ultimately for her as well, so she could become a lawyer again.
And Jesus Christ, the last couple minutes of this episode just hit me like a freaking freight train, Dragon. They really did.
I was just like chef's kissing all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole Kevin Smith's like fucking credits thing.
Yeah, I just love the whole that we mirrored the smoking scene so perfectly in the same staging and lighting and everything inside this little stone like kind of meeting room. And
I think it kind of has like the ultimate we don't care with the whole like, wait, wouldn't the guards like, I don't know, are you allowed to smoke in prison?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think cigarettes are kind of a currency, and I think that was always the case. I don't know if that's still true or not. I assume it is.
But like, can you just like light up in your cell though?
Well, no, he's not in his cell. He's in like a kind of like a meeting room though. That's why I question. In his cell, no, you're not supposed to have the cigarettes in there. But I don't know.
Like I assume cigarettes were like for just for like outside.
Regardless, I mean, regardless, I think she's sneaking it in anyway to slice it. So
she is sneaking it in, and I am saying it's the ultimate. Like technically they're on camera. The guard could come in and be hey, you two, no smoking. Well, but we don't care.
Well, no, Tiki, they're not. You're not allowed to record in there.
Oh. Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Remember, in prison, you're not supposed to record like the commiserating with the lawyer thing. I mean, I believe I'm pretty sure that's by law. You're not allowed to do that.
Sure.
I know most places don't do it. I assume every place is like by the same bylaw. That's still true. Like, no, you can't record that. I mean, a guard is probably posted outside. I mean, if he smells smoke, but then again, they all like Saul, so maybe they let it slide.
That's true.
Anywho, but yeah, I love the exchange here. It was Kim Wexler kind of saying it's their version of the very gracious thank you, but it was saying, so you had it down to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
It gave you 86. So this is I don't mean to be patting myself congratulatory or anything here, but I just love the fact that we kind of raised this question a few episodes back. The whole do you believe Saul Goodman would go to prison for Kim Wexler? And I mean, ultimately, he kind of did. 86 years.
Yes.
Yeah, 86 years. That's but again, he could get out with good behavior, and the Peter Gould.
There's no way he doesn't get out on good behavior. Now, how soon that's going to be? Probably not for a long time, but
Let me ask you this: so Peter Gould kind of threw out I'm sure he's not going to be there for 86 years. Now, between the good behavior, obviously, we're going to shave time off of that. But here's the question, though: do you think Bob Odenkirk had a hilarious suggestion for this too, by the way. But before I get to that, do you think he would pull a con to get out of prison?
No.
Really? Okay, you think it'd be the straight and narrow, natural way?
Not at this point. I think if anything, like I said, he'd just very much play into the good behavior thing.
Right.
But I don't think he'd pull an outright con because I think, honestly, Dragon, if you were to pull an outright con, that would basically take away from the whole moral of the Better Call Saul story at large. So no, I would like to think not.
I'd like to think he ends up doing 30 years. That's what I'd like to think happens. He gets out at age 70 or what have you.
That's a pretty good headcanon.
That's how I'd like to think. The good behavior buys him. Okay, look, we gave you the original plea deal of 30.
Oh God, can you imagine Jimmy and Kim in their 80s just having a Carl and Ellie life together?
Oh God. Bob Odenkirk's suggestion was, and literally on the inside pass. No, we can reshoot it right now because it's.
I heard that. Yeah.
Oh, Kim slips him with the cigarette a serrated spoon.
Oh my God!
Shoot it like an insert during pandemic times. Shoot it, And they use add in the footage. Just turn it black and white. Add in the footage. Show a lady's arm passing a guy with sleeves. Serrated spoon.
Spoon. All right.
Anyway, no, seriously. So seriously, I love it. It's like this is the last. Do you think this is the last time they see each other?
Not necessarily.
Because that's the thing. Because I mean, she could. She could just visit him. Like we don't know. You know.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a regular thing by any stretch. And I do think. Okay, I'll basically kind of like answer that question with a cliche, Dragon. All right.
Okay.
I don't think it's a goodbye. I think it's a see you later.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I mean, one way or another, she will see him later if he gets out. You know, like let's say 30 years. But yeah, sure.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. I like that. I do. The ambiguity is a good call, though, right?
Absolutely. You know me. I love a good ambiguous ending, especially a bittersweet ambiguous ending. So.
Yeah, just the fact that he could, like, you know, again, this could be, again, with 86 years, assuming he does the full time and the good everything doesn't go well, which, again, fat chance, but let's just play it out there. It's the fact that 86 years, you know, there's a good chance that, yeah, like, she won't wait for him, you know, because that's a lot, it's a long time. They're just going to go their separate ways, but again, with permission, essentially. Like, we made our separate ways. I made the bet I did with you when I said those nasty things to you, and, you know, we divorced each other for the better, and all this happened. We don't, you know, this is it. You know, we kind of share that meeting, and it's basically her saying, "I'm a lawyer again. I'm doing what you wanted me to do, and I'm carrying on." Like, you know, we're basically we faced honesty. You know, I'm in prison for all the things I've done, and you're a lawyer again, as you should be, helping people. Mm-hmm. So then, basically, Jimmy McGill's conscience lives on, and Kim Wexler and Saul Goodman is in prison.
Yeah, and you just know that these two, it's like they are absolutely, like, it's like a fucking star-crossed lovers thing, man. They are absolutely the loves of each other's life.
Now, something really big we should talk about. We did a Schindler's List in this scene.
Did we?
There was color in this scene.
Wait, was there? Where?
The cigarette, the light of the cigarette is in color.
Oh, how did I miss that?
Why do you think I insisted on using yellow in this?
Just because Saul's color is yellow? That's...
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. I'm just saying the fact that we brought color back. Let me put this way, Tiki. The only reason with the black and white images we've been using color is when color was incorporated into the episode or homaged in the episode. Like,
okay, Dragon, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because my one little nitpick with this episode was that we didn't have any sort of color in the black and white. But no, we do, and it's fucking perfect that it's the butt of the cigarette, and it's perfect that it's just a little bit of color. It's not completely in color. It's just a tiny speck of color in Jimmy's life. But it's enough. God, the symbolism in that is so good.
And a little yellow, like the colors on the glasses in the very first episode. So again, so they leave, and you know, they're having their star-crossed moment, and it's just watching her go, you know, him behind a fence, her like.
Okay, this is gonna sound really stupid, but just given the whole, like, me having the dream that the neo-Nazis were gonna figure into the finale. Like, Dragon, a tiny part of me, I knew they probably weren't going to do this. But a tiny part of me was like, oh God, how fucked up would it be if they basically did like the original Clerks ending and Jimmy gets murdered like right at the end, like Shane right in front of Kim.
You're not, Tiki, you're not alone. I have the same exact thought.
Did you?
I was thinking with the framing there, like, okay, there's no way.
I was like, how fucked up would that be, dude?
That's what I'm saying. It probably would have been a mistake had they done that. But
I agree.
So that's the thing of, like, you know, yes, dramatically that'd be interesting, but essentially would have fridged our main character at the very end. I mean, I don't like using the term fridge, but that would have been exactly.
It would have ruined the bittersweet ending.
That's what I'm saying. Would have compromised her ending, which is like shock and awe. Like it just came like, no,
right.
Like, first Howard, now Jimmy, what next?
Oh my God.
Francesca hanging herself, what next?
Oh my God.
I never got to travel anywhere. You know?
Okay, but seriously, the last like 3 shots of this show are just utter perfection personified, Dragon.
Yep, him doing the finger guns.
The finger guns, the shot of them like standing apart from each other. And then him, you know, the perspective shot of him like fading into the distance as she rounds a corner. Just, I don't even know what to say, but Chef's Kiss. It's just a fucking perfect ending all the way around.
Yep. just utterly just perfect and fantastic in every way. We got a lot of mileage out of those finger gun endings. At least 3 seasons, half the series, half the series ended with those finger guns.
Right. But seriously, how profound is that last shot of him, of the rounding the corner? And it's like, I don't know, Dragon, if it was the last time she ever saw him, then I do think that would be a good note of yeah, this is kind of like, it definitely at the very least feels like it's the closing of a chapter.
I agree. Here's where I overanalyze things, mind you, but here's the potential symbolism. I think in the Albuquerque verse, the greatest appeal is that it's kind of like you turn a corner, you never know what you're gonna find, and like the average Joe and what's going on in that story. And the fact that we take the kind of a mundane start, and we go to these amazing places where we kind of up the ante on the mundane to insane, fantastically interesting levels. It's just the fact that it's like we turned a corner. We saw Saul Goodman as anyone would, seeing like being his mark or anything. So it's the fact like that's kind of how we leave him. Like we leave. And also, if you want to be all full circle about, we were kind of having these interesting angles when we were introduced to Gene Takovic. So it's kind of like, hey, we're kind of exiting the shot as we entered the mall a few times, So it's.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, seriously, it's just the fact it's like you turn a corner and there's like a surprise about what's going on with these folks. So that's I think it's ultimately what we're saying with the. It's me reading into it, but maybe that's kind of what we're saying with you never know what's around the corner.
For sure. I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Greg, do you want to try the phone one more time?
Yeah, let's give it a shot. Let's try it.
I'm not holding my breath, but
neither am I. Okay.
Nope.
Sorry. Well, you know something though, I'll say what my bit was going to be.
Okay.
So the phone just did not. Basically, there was a dial tone of like nothing there. So imagine if we had called the Saul Goodman number that you have now on that billboard. You
yes.
And we called the number from Breaking Bad, which up to this point, through the duration of the entirety of the podcast that we saw at every episode, that number had worked.
Mm-hmm.
That number I had called several times, and not just like the issue we've been having tonight, but I mean in general, that number reliably picked up all the time. It stopped working. And Tiki, that to me symbolizes the end of Better Call Saul, which makes me wonder if they've done that to all the numbers now that the show's over. But at the very least, that number, the original number from Breaking Bad we've had for years, for decades, one could say. I don't know how long the number's been in operation. I assume ever since it was put on a billboard in universe in the show, probably after season 2.
That's painful.
So yeah, Tiki, that number has been disconnected. So it's really Saul gone.
All right, Dragon. Yep. Do you have any final thoughts?
I think we should leave it there.
I think so, actually.
been quite a ride, and it's all gone now.
And again, we will be back. I don't know exactly when this is going to happen, folks, because I'm going to have to rewatch everything. But by all means, I plan on plowing through a rewatch of this show, Dragon. I plan on that not taking too long as far as my attention span goes. Mm-hmm. But we will be doing a ranking podcast of all of the Albuquerque verse seasons, both Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Very excited for that. And, I'm sure after that we'll find ways to go over Albuquerque verse stuff here and there. I'm sure we will. So, to bring back around something that I just kind of brought into the fray, this is not a goodbye. This is a see you later. That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.